So last week, was it last week? Maybe a week or two ago, I did a piece on Ben Shapiro, and it was basically kind of about what Russ and Max were both talking about how the conservatives who were against the Ukraine war suddenly support the war in Gaza. I started reviewing this footage of Ben Shapiro, and I realized that he accidentally admits something, and I didn't catch it when I did this before. So I want to start by showing you this definition of Zionism from Google: a movement for originally the reestablishment and now the development and protection of a Jewish nation, what is now Israel. It was established as a political organization in 1897 under Theodor Herzl and was later led by Chaim Weizmann. Zionism, according to Britannica here, says Zionism is a Jewish nationalist movement. Remember how white nationalists are always racists? Like, that's the coded language for racism here in the US, white nationalists. Anyway, Zionism is, according to Britannica, and this is the old definition, but it looks like it was updated September 9th. Zionism is a Jewish nationalist movement that originated in Europe in the 19th century with the goal of the creation and support of a Jewish state. According to Wikipedia, Zionism is an ethno-cultural nationalist movement that emerged in Europe in the late 19th century. So that is the definition of Zionism. Nowhere in the definition of Zionism here does it say that Zionism defines the Jewish people as a whole. It's a political movement. And so I want to continue down this path with you by showing you last week's clip again and listen to what Ben Shapiro says. Now, what he's doing here is he's trying to make the argument that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. And the proof that he offers for that is that there's a Jewish Zionist movement that doesn't like the state of Israel, that actually wants to overthrow the secular state of Israel and make it more non-secular, make it more of a religious monarchy. Well, if they're Zionists and they're Jewish people, you're basically admitting that the term anti-Zionist is not anti-Semitic. He doesn't catch that he does that, but he's basically making the case for Rashida Tlaib, or for anyone that's trying to make the case that anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism are two different things. Watch this. Just listen to the mental gymnastics he's trying to do here. This is really good, actually.
On anti-Semitism, there's some of this actually from both sides of the aisle. So, for example, Republicans yesterday put forward a resolution condemning anti-Zionism as anti-Semitism. This led Representative Jerry Nadler to suggest that anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. Now, the way that you get the reason he's doing this is because there are people inside his own coalition who wish that Israel would just disappear, that it would be destroyed. That'd be like Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib.
Now, I've never heard either of them say that directly, because this is old Ben Shapiro. Okay, listen to this.
Calling for that. Political debate requires that you talk to people and people take your words as what they mean.
Now, the way that you get the reason he's doing this is because there are people inside his own coalition who wish that Israel would just disappear, that it would be destroyed. That'd be like Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib.
So just by voicing discontent with the current war in Gaza, he's making the mental jump that they want Israel to be destroyed. And nowhere have they ever said that. And he himself said this.
Political debate requires that you talk to people and people take your words as what they mean.
Okay, so let's keep watching. Current Ben Shapiro.
He doesn't wish to condemn them, so he's going to pretend that anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism are totally unrelated. The way that he gets out of this particular box, since obviously Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib are anti-Semites and hate Jews and Israel, the way he gets out of this box is he suggests, well, there are some Jews who are anti-Zionist. This is the favorite tactic. And the people he cites are Satmar Hasidim, which is a sect of ultra-Orthodox, who, by the way, when it says they're anti-Zionist, let's be clear what they mean by anti-Zionist. What's Satmar Hasidim, this ultra-Orthodox sect, which is a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage of even the Orthodox? What exactly is their belief system? Their belief system is that there should, in fact, be a Jewish country in Israel, but it should be a Davidic monarchy with the reestablishment of the Third Temple.
So right there, he just proved himself that anti-Zionism is not equal to anti-Semitism. He just told you himself. These are actually like very religiously zealous Jews who want Israel, like they're anti-Zionist because they want Israel to be even more religious. So he is, I can't believe that people take this guy seriously as an intellectual, as some great thinker or debater, because he basically is trying to make the case here. Let's be clear. He's trying to make the case that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism while citing a religious anti-Zionist group that are Jewish that want to replace Israel with an even more insanely religious version of it. And we're supposed to believe that those people are anti-Semites because anti-Zionism equals anti-Semitism. That's how stupid this guy is.
Not quite the anti-Zionism of, the Palestinians who wish to see every Jew obliterated from the region.
Even if that was true, again, he's making the exact point that we're making, that anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism are not the same thing. Because, Ben, you just said yourself, the Jewish people, the Hasidic Jews, the fundamentalist Jews, I guess if you want to call them that, who are also anti-Zionists, are they anti-Semitic, Ben? Because you just said yourself they want to establish an even more crazy, zealous religious version of Israel, but they're anti-Zionist. What a moron this guy is.
The Satmar Hasidim don't believe in a secular state of Israel. They believe in a Jewish theocracy. So if you're talking about these people as though what they actually want is for all Jews to be removed from the region, no.
No, that's not what anyone said, dipshit. We said that anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism because there are anti-Zionist Jews. No one believes that the Satmar people you're talking about want to destroy Israel.
Actually, what they want is for there to be a Jewish monarchic theocracy in the land, complete with high priesthood and a third temple built right now, instead of what they think of as an obstacle to that, the secular Jewish state of Israel.
And they're anti-Semites, is what you're claiming. No one is claiming that. We don't think those people have the same political beliefs as the Palestinians do, Ben. We're not that stupid. That's the leap that you have to make to do these mental gymnastics that anti-Zionism equals anti-Semitism, when there are very clearly anti-Zionist Jews who have nothing to do with the Palestinians or Gaza or any of that stuff. And let's go back to this definition again of what Zionism is, because this says it pretty clearly. Zionism is a Jewish nationalist movement that originated in Europe. And to be anti-Zionist does not mean that you oppose the entire state of Israel either. It just means that you oppose the idea that they should keep expanding. That there's nuance involved in this debate. And the idea that these Satmar guys are anti-Semites is patently ridiculous. But let's keep going here, because Ben continues to call people anti-Semites. But actually, let's listen to a little bit more of this.
That's what you're talking about. So you're playing a word game. When you say the Satmar Hasidim want the same thing as, for example, Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, that they're the same kind of quote-unquote anti-Zionist, no one's making that claim that they're the same kind of anti-Zionist, Ben. We're just saying that anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism because there are anti-Zionist Jews. And you just explained that they're more fanatical than the current state of Israel about the Jewish religion, not Palestine, not anything else. So you just admitted that anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism are not the same thing. You provided proof that they're not the same thing. That's how stupid you are. Ridiculous.
And you're trying to say that people like Rashida Tlaib believe that the Satmars, who are anti-Zionists, and the people in Gaza, Hamas or Hezbollah, are the same, have the same political beliefs. They don't. And that's the point, dickhead, that anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. You just provided the proof.
That's ridiculous. That's like saying that somebody who wants a Christian...
So here's Ben doubling down on the anti-Semitism.
Jerry Nadler, when he says, well, we shouldn't look to inflict intra-party damage on one another over anti-Semitism. Again, this is the same guy who also did not vote to censure Rashida Tlaib over her comments with regard to Israel, which are complete anti-Semitic lies. He says he vehemently...
Notice he doesn't bring up what the comments were. I think she said something about, if I remember correctly, if it's the same one, maybe it's these guys are constantly, their panties are always twisted about something someone said. That's what they do for a living. But Rashida Tlaib, or it was Ilhan Omar originally said it's all about the Benjamins, and they tried to say that's anti-Semitic, but that's politics in general. All these people it's all about the Benjamin, whether they're Jewish or not, whether it's AIPAC or not. But it's very clear that AIPAC has a lot of control because of the money that they distribute to Congress.
Disagrees with her, but he has not called her, for example, an anti-Semite, which she clearly is. So I'll take my
She clearly it. Of course. What's your proof of that?
my tips on anti-Semitism from someplace else. Meanwhile,
Yeah, you will, because you are an idiot.
Democratic Representative Louis Frankel of Florida, same sort of thing. She also won't condemn Pramila Jayapal, who spent yesterday basically trying to walk back her comments that rape was, not that big a deal when it's against Jewish ladies in Israel.
Again, no one said that. And this is, let's listen to old Ben Shapiro.
Political debate requires that you talk to people and people take your words as what they mean.
Not that they twist them into you're an anti-Semite. It has nothing to do with racism. And it's the same people who 5 minutes ago were telling you that the trans movement needs to shut up about their safe spaces and all that kind of stuff. And just, it's just, I can't, my brain cannot wrap around how these people can hold two conflicting beliefs in their head simultaneously. Ben Shapiro being the absolute worst example, because he was the loudest against the trans people, him having to call them what they want, or, say, walk on eggshells around their pronouns and stuff. And now he's making everyone walk on eggshells around criticism of Israel, because that's something that he's emotional about. Yeah, I'm sure
everybody but me has an AIPAC person.
What's that mean, an AIPAC person?
It's like your babysitter, your AIPAC babysitter, who is always talking to you for AIPAC. They're probably a constituent in your district, but they are firmly embedded in AIPAC. And
every member has someone like this?
That's how it works on the Republican side. And when they come to DC, you go have lunch with them, and they've got your cell number, and you have conversations with them.
That's absolutely crazy.
I've had 4 members of Congress say, I'll talk to my AIPAC person. And it's literally what we call them, my AIPAC guy. I'll talk to my AIPAC guy and see if I can get him to dial those ads back.
Why have I never heard this before?
Why would they want to tell their constituents that they've basically got a buddy system with somebody who's representing a foreign country? It doesn't benefit the congressman for people to know that, so they're not going to tell you that.
It was a meme in which he compared American patriotism to Zionism. He said, Congress these days, American patriotism, it's the meme of Drake. Basically it's a binary meme, one where he's shunning a thing and one where he's giving it a thumbs up. This is Congress these days shunning American patriotism. Congress these days giving a thumbs up to Zionism. Okay? And obviously the idea here is that American patriotism is somehow directly opposed to Zionism. Now, there are a couple reads on this that are possible. There's the more charitable read, which is that there are Democrats in the Democratic Party who, for example, don't like American patriotism, but they're okay with Zionism. And that's weird, and they should be okay with both. And then there's the read, which is the more obvious read, which is that American patriotism is somehow opposed to Zionism, that you can't be both an American patriot and a Zionist, which of course is ridiculous. I mean, just ridiculous, full stop crazy, considering that has been the mainstream position in the...
So just to cut in here for a second, he's making the argument that you can be a patriot and a Zionist at the same time. I don't necessarily think that's wrong, but based on the historical evidence of how much money is funneled out of the U.S. into Israel on behalf of Israel, on behalf of Zionist movement, you can easily make that logical connection that, yes, it is anti-patriotic to be Zionist, because that involves you putting another foreign country ahead of your own. So I guess technically, yeah, if you're a Zionist that's reasonable, you can support the state of Israel, but within a reasonable, means, and not be just like a full out, like vehement, like Israel should be allowed to kill everyone. I think that's plausible, but the way that Zionism has evolved, I don't know that that's actually true. It does kind of conflict with patriotism. So I want to show you, these are, just to go back to the Ben thing, these are the people that Ben is trying to convince you are anti-Semites. Watch this. These are the anti-Zionist Jews. Being called scumbags. There it is. Judaism is okay. Zionism is no way. They're not saying anything anti-Jewish, Ben. There are Jewish people there with them.
You have no rights to Palestine.
This is the reason that the anti-Semitism thing is such a talking point, clearly. So this is from a tweet from James Lee, and he says, the Anti-Defamation League is not a civil rights organization. It's Israel's attack dog in the U.S. with tentacles in U.S. intelligence agencies, law enforcement, big tech, finance, and media. Don't believe me? These are the things they openly brag about.
America and Israel are rock solid together. The vast majority of us stand with Israel.
With America's support, Israel will do what it needs to.
Israel.
Begins and ends in Israel. A lot of the money are from pro-Israeli organizations. A lot of the information goes to Israel. A lot of the suggestions for influence comes from Israel. I mean, that's what the people on the inside were saying.
Their donor base cares about Israel, one former ADL staffer told Jewish Currents magazine. A former ADL lawyer also said, these donors have a huge amount of influence in some ways that are kind of bizarre. And that money and influence went far beyond just spying on individuals and groups critical of Israel, as the ADL has also worked closely with the FBI, including providing training programs for FBI agents and sponsoring specialized trips to Israel for senior officials to study, quote unquote, counterterrorism tactics.
ADL is played out. Nobody knows who the ADL are. Stop giving them attention. Nobody cares about the ADL.
Do an unbelievable amount in the realm of counterterrorism for us.
The ADL also conducts training programs for police officers, prosecutors, and judges. And to date,
that is wild. Did you hear that? Listen to this.
The ADL also conducts training programs for police officers, prosecutors, and judges. And to date, the ADL has trained over 150,000 law enforcement professionals in the United States. They also have the power to monitor social media activity across all major platforms and change social media algorithms the way they see fit. Don't believe me? Well, here's Jonathan Greenblatt, the CEO of the ADL.
We work with YouTube to get them to change their algorithms. We work with Facebook on trying to use a redirect method. So when you search for Holocaust, you get directed to like a Yad Vashem page. We opened a center in Silicon Valley back in 2017. And the woman who runs it, she's an ex-Facebook executive. I have software engineers and data scientists working at ADL. We're monitoring all this stuff. And we're working with all the platforms, by the way, Google and YouTube and Meta and Twitter and Reddit and Steam and Amazon, all these companies. From like Apple to Zoom, we work with all of them.
Some might call that a conspiracy fact. Just saying. And if their ability to influence big tech and media isn't disturbing enough, the ADL also partners with payment platforms like PayPal to monitor online transactions and cancel payment processing for those whose speech they disapprove of.
Just to understand this, is this simply a research effort, or is the ultimate goal, I imagine, to effectively defund them, which is to say that PayPal would effectively turn off the spigot, or at least turn off the ability for them to fundraise using PayPal?
That's correct, Andrew.
I've never seen any other organization come anywhere close to the ADL in terms of its secretiveness, its connections to foreign governments, and passing on information to the foreign government, and the money that it receives, the amount of attention it receives on television constantly. Jonathan Greenblatt is constantly on television. There's no other organization anywhere near that comes anywhere.
So there you go, James Lee with a very powerful kind of highlight reel for you about the influence and control of the people who are trying to conflate anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. And the more I watch this stuff, the more I'm like, can you be a patriot and a Zionist at the same time? I wonder. But let's just recap real quick. Ben Shapiro is a moron who used anti-Zionist Jews as a way to prove that all criticism of Zionism is anti-Semitic. But I want to show you this last piece is just kind of the icing on this cake right here that just kind of shows you why this is being done, why the term anti-Semitism is being used to deplatform and demonetize critics of war, and how it kind of propagated. And your boy Tim Lorden here has it for you. Let me enlarge that so you can actually read it. But he says, did you guys know that the Mossad uses anti-Semitism as a smear campaign for global manipulation? Here's a former Mossad agent explaining exactly that. I thought it was weird to go from rarely ever hearing it to all day, every day. Now it makes perfect sense. Feel free to add this. Here you go. And I've played this before.
I had my second book. I had a record with my second book. I think my first book sold something around the world, close to 8 million copies. My second book was not reviewed in any newspaper in North America. Now that's a record. None. No, I'm sorry. I think the guy in the Phoenix Gazette and the people from B'nai B'rith walked in and asked for him to resign. Yeah, because he's an anti-Semite. Now, I know what they do because I used to ask them to do it. I mean, when I was in the Mossad and we had a guy that gave us problems in the US, and he was speaking out and he was talking like Pete talked once and said, Israel is bombing Lebanon with cluster bombs. We say, hey, who's that guy? You know, Pete Makaki, we used to call him. Yeah, which is
Ronald Reagan actually condemned that. And I guess by Ben Shapiro's standards, Ronald Reagan is an anti-Semite.
Is Pete the cockroach. Because he makes a lot of noise and you can't get rid of him. So what you do is you get in touch with a guy in the station in New York or in the station in Washington. You say, tell the guys at B'nai B'rith to label him. And of course the campaign starts, and before you know it, the guy's labeled. And he's an anti-Semite, because that's what we say he is. And that's one stain you cannot wash. Now, it shames me as a Jew to tell you that. But that's the fact, and it's wrong.
There you go. So Ben Shapiro is a fraud. His beliefs shift with his emotions, and that's exactly the thing that he used to make fun of. And I just think it's funny to watch him tie himself into mental knots trying to defend his own hypocrisy, because he basically just pointed out that the Hasidic Jews are anti-Zionists, and then he tries to make it seem like, you know, Rashida Tlaib and all the opponents of, you know, people that are critical of Israel in Congress. I don't want to say opponents of Israel, because I don't think they're anti-Israel at all. They're just against, you know, Israel having no repercussions whatsoever for doing whatever they want and killing whoever they want. You know, and I don't think there's anything wrong with questioning that at the very least. But to Ben, that's anti-Semitism. So I just want to remind you one last time.
For example,
what Ben said.
Political debate requires that you talk to people and people take your words as what they mean.
There you go. Political discourse requires that you take people's words for what they mean, Ben, not twisting them into anti-Semites for your own pathetic agenda.